As we step into 2026, hear this truth clearly. God is not asking you to chase people, compete with others, or compare your journey to anyone else. God is calling you to focus on yourself, your faith, your character, your obedience, your inner life. Because when you align your focus, God aligns your future. Many people are tired because their energy is divided. Their prayers are sincere, but their attention is scattered. They want God's promises, but their minds are pulled in 10 different directions. Yet all through Scripture, God moved powerfully through men and women who learned this one principle: focus precedes favor. When Peter looked at the waves, he sank. When he looked at Jesus, he walked on water. Nothing changed around him. The storm was the same, but his focus determined the outcome. In 2026, the storm may not disappear, but your focus can change everything. God is saying, if you will focus on becoming who I've called you to be, I will take care of where you are going. You see, focus is not selfish when it is God-centered. When you focus on yourself spiritually, you are allowing God to refine you, strengthen you, and prepare you. Heaven is never rushed. God always prepares before He promotes. He always develops before He delivers. Think about David. Before the throne, there was the field. Before the crown, there was the cave. Before the applause, there was isolation. While others were watching crowds, David was watching sheep. But in that hidden place, God was shaping a king. What looked like delay was actually divine preparation. In 2026, do not despise the hidden season. That quiet time, when no one is clapping, when no one notices your effort, is when God is building something deep inside you. What God does in you is always greater than what He does for you. When you focus on your inner life, your prayer, your integrity, your discipline, God begins to work on your outer life. Suddenly, doors open that you didn't knock on. Opportunities appear that you didn't chase. Favor finds you when you stop chasing approval. God never asked you to become like someone else. He asked you to become the best version of the person He designed. Comparison kills destiny. Focus gives it life. Some people miss their miracle because they are watching someone else's breakthrough. But God says, keep your eyes on me, and I will do something in your life that no one can deny. When you focus on yourself, you are not ignoring others. You are obeying God. Jesus spent 30 years preparing for 3 years of ministry. Why? Because impact requires foundation. Visibility without maturity destroys people. God loves you too much to promote you before you are ready. In 2026, let God strengthen your roots before He increases your reach. Your daily habits matter. What you feed your mind matters. Who you listen to matters. What you tolerate matters. Every small decision is shaping a future you cannot yet see. Great destinies are built in ordinary days by focused people. When you wake up and choose prayer over panic, focus over fear, obedience over excuses, heaven takes note. Angels move when faith is steady. God is drawn to consistency more than intensity. Many want instant miracles, but God is building lasting transformation. And transformation begins when you decide, this year, I will work on me. Work on your faith when no one is watching. Work on your discipline when it's uncomfortable. Work on your character when it costs you. Because what you become in secret will reward you in public. God is not limited by your past, your background, or your current position. He is limited only by your willingness to focus and obey. When you align your attention with God's instruction, He releases provision, direction, and power. In 2026, stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand your calling. Stop proving your worth to those who don't value your destiny. Focus on God, and He will validate you at the right time. Remember this, God's plans are always bigger than your imagination, but they require your cooperation. When you focus on growing, God focuses on blessing. When you focus on obedience, God focuses on expansion. There are things God wants to do through you that you cannot yet imagine. But first, he must do something in you. And that work begins with focus. This is your year to be disciplined. This is your year to be consistent. This is your year to grow silently and shine suddenly. Focus on yourself in 2026, not in pride, but in purpose, not in fear, but in faith. And as you do, God will shape you, position you, and surprise you with a future far greater than you ever dreamed. Because when your focus is right, God will make you what you can't imagine, but exactly what He planned. Focus is not something you accidentally fall into. It is something you choose. Long before it becomes a habit of the mind, it is a decision of the spirit. Every day, life places hundreds of voices in front of you. Opinions, fears, distractions, pressures, comparisons, and your spirit decides which voice deserves your attention. Where your focus goes, your life follows. This is why focus is deeply spiritual. It is not about willpower alone, it is about alignment. Think of prayer. Two people can pray the same words, but one prayer shakes heaven while the other feels empty. The difference is not vocabulary, volume, or length, it is focus. One person's heart is fully present, anchored in faith, expecting God to respond. The other is thinking about unfinished work, unanswered messages, or tomorrow's worries. Focus turns ordinary prayer into supernatural connection. Without focus, even faith feels weak. With focus, even a whisper becomes powerful. In daily life, you see this principle everywhere. A student may sit in class for hours, books open, notes ready, but the mind keeps drifting to social media, conversations, and worries. Another student studies for less time, but with full attention. When results come, it looks like intelligence or luck, but the real difference was focus. In the same way, many people spend years in church, hearing sermons, singing songs, but never truly change. Not because God is silent, but because their spirit was never fully focused on Him. Focus is the bridge between belief and experience. Many believe God can do miracles, but only those who focus on Him begin to expect them. Expectation is born when attention is undivided. When your heart says, God, I am here. Speak, lead, change me, heaven responds. A distracted spirit receives little, not because God withholds, but because the vessel is not positioned to receive. Consider daily work. A man may work all day but feel exhausted and unfulfilled. Another may work fewer hours but feel energized and purposeful. The difference is focus. One is mentally present but spiritually absent, working only for survival. The other has decided this work matters. God can use this. When focus becomes spiritual, even ordinary labor becomes meaningful. Your job stops being just income and starts becoming training ground. Focus also determines emotional strength. Many people are drained, not because life is hard, but because their attention is divided between too many battles. They replay old hurts, imagine future fears, and compare their lives with others. Their spirit is pulled in every direction. But the person who decides, I will focus on what God is doing in me today, experiences peace even in pressure. Peace is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of focused trust. Look at daily habits. When someone decides to wake up earlier to pray, to read, to reflect, that is not discipline alone, it is a spiritual declaration. It says, my future is worth my attention. On the other hand, when someone scrolls endlessly, reacts to every notification, and lets the day control them, it is not just a time issue, it is a focus issue. What you give your first attention to each day slowly shapes who you become. Even relationships reveal this truth. Some people feel unseen and unheard, not because no one loves them, but because everyone is distracted. A focused conversation can heal more than 1,000 words spoken without presence. When you choose to truly listen, to be present, you are making a spiritual decision to value connection over convenience. God listens to focused hearts, not rushed rituals. Faith itself grows through focus. When you constantly look at problems, faith shrinks. When you look at God, faith expands. The problem does not disappear, but your perspective changes. A focused spirit says, this situation is real, but God is greater. That kind of focus does not come automatically. It is chosen again and again, especially when circumstances try to steal your attention. Every breakthrough in life begins with a focused decision. Athletes focus on training when others relax. Builders focus on foundations before beauty. Leaders focus on preparation before recognition. In the same way, spiritual growth demands focus before results. God often waits not for talent, but for attention. He looks for hearts that are steady, not scattered. When you decide to focus, you are telling your soul, I will not live on autopilot. You are telling fear, you don't get my attention. You are telling distractions, you don't decide my direction. And you are telling God, I am available. That availability is powerful. Heaven responds to focused availability more than to loud requests. Life does not change because you wish harder. It changes because you focus better. A focused spirit can endure delay, resist temptation, and remain hopeful in uncertainty. It knows that what looks slow on the outside is often powerful on the inside. When focus becomes spiritual, patience stops feeling like waiting and starts feeling like preparation. This is why focus is not just a mental habit. It is a sacred choice you make every day about who you trust, what you value, and where you are going. God has never struggled with power. What slows divine movement in human lives is not God's ability, but human distraction. When distractions are removed, God does not need extra time, extra signs, or extra effort. He moves swiftly, clearly, and decisively. Many people pray for speed in their breakthroughs, not realizing that heaven is waiting for silence in their soul. God works fastest when your attention is no longer divided. Look at how life works every day. When your phone is filled with notifications, messages, and alerts, even a simple task takes twice as long. The moment you switch off the noise, clarity comes. The same is true spiritually. God is always speaking, always guiding, always preparing, but distractions create interference. It is not that God delays, it is that we are too busy to hear Him clearly. Think about moments when decisions must be made. A person surrounded by too many opinions becomes confused. Everyone is advising, warning, suggesting, comparing. But when that person steps away, quiets the voices, and seeks God alone, direction comes quickly. Distractions stretch confusion, stillness invites clarity. God's voice becomes sharper when competing voices are silenced. In daily life, speed always follows focus. A worker who multitasks constantly feels busy but achieves little. Another who shuts the door, turns off interruptions, and commits fully finishes faster and better. Spiritually, the same principle applies. God accelerates progress when He sees undivided attention. When distractions are removed, effort multiplies into effectiveness. Many delays in life are not divine delays, they are distraction delays. We ask God to change our situation while refusing to change our attention. We ask Him to open doors while our eyes are fixed on doors He already closed. God cannot move you forward while you are emotionally attached to what He is asking you to leave behind. The moment you release the distraction, momentum returns. Consider how growth happens in nature. Seeds grow fastest underground, away from noise, attention, and interference. No seed grows in the spotlight. Silence, darkness, and separation create speed beneath the surface. In the same way, God often removes distractions not to punish you, but to accelerate your growth. What feels like isolation is often divvy. Nay, focus. Look at daily habits. A person who constantly jumps from one goal to another feels stuck year after year. But when someone removes distractions, Unnecessary conversations, unproductive routines, endless scrolling. Progress suddenly accelerates. Nothing magical changed. Distractions were removed. God works through order, and focus creates order. Emotionally, distractions are often disguised as comfort. Old conversations, familiar environments, unhealthy attachments. They feel safe, but they slow you down. God's speed requires trust. When you trust Him enough to let go of what drains your attention, He moves you forward with surprising quickness. Breakthrough often comes not when something new is added, but when something unnecessary is removed. Even prayer becomes powerful when distractions are gone. Short, focused prayer can accomplish more than long, distracted prayer. A few minutes of full attention can shift what hours of scattered words could not. God responds to presence, not performance. When your heart is fully engaged, heaven responds without delay. In relationships, clarity comes fastest when distractions are removed. When you stop seeking validation from the wrong people, you hear God's affirmation clearly. When you stop explaining yourself to those who misunderstand you, peace returns quickly. God does not compete for attention. He waits until distractions leave. Then He speaks with authority. Daily stress is often a sign of divided attention. When you try to carry too many worries, your soul slows down. But when you place your concerns in God's hands and remove mental clutter, peace comes faster than you expected. God's peace moves quickly into uncluttered hearts. Success follows the same pattern. People who try to do everything often accomplish little. People who remove distractions and focus on what matters most advance rapidly. God honors clarity. When your purpose is clear and your attention is focused, doors open without struggle. Spiritual growth accelerates when distractions lose their power. When you stop reacting to every emotion, every opinion, every delay, you mature faster. God trusts focused people with greater responsibility because they are not easily pulled away. Stability invites speed. When distractions are removed, obedience becomes easier. You are no longer negotiating with fear or doubt. You act quickly because your mind is clear. God moves fast through people who respond without hesitation. Delayed obedience often comes from divided attention. Life begins to flow when unnecessary noise is silenced. Direction becomes clear. Strength increases. Faith stabilizes. What once felt heavy suddenly feels light, not because the load changed, but because distractions were removed. God is ready to move. The question is not whether He is prepared, but whether your life has room for His movement. When distractions leave, divine acceleration begins. What people celebrate in public is almost always born in private. Miracles that look sudden to the world are usually the result of unseen discipline practiced day after day when no one was watching. Long before God displays His power openly, He looks for consistency in secret. Your private discipline is not small, wasted, or forgotten. It is the very place where public miracles are prepared. Every powerful outcome in life follows this same law. Think about daily health. No one applauds you for choosing water over sugar, for waking up early to exercise, or for saying no to habits that drain you. Those choices happen quietly, often without encouragement. But months later, the strength, confidence, and energy show up publicly. People call it good genetics or luck, never realizing it was private discipline shaping visible results. The same principle operates spiritually. When you pray alone, read quietly, forgive silently, and obey when it is inconvenient, something is being built inside you. Heaven keeps record of what humans overlook. God sees what is done in secret and responds with power in public. What looks ordinary to you is often extraordinary preparation in God's hands. Look at daily work life. A person who consistently improves skills after hours, studies when tired, and shows up prepared, gains sudden promotions that others call favor. But that favor was trained in private. Excellence is never accidental. God often uses discipline as the doorway to miracles because discipline proves readiness. Miracles require responsibility. Thank you and responsibility is formed in secret. In relationships, this truth is just as clear. A marriage that looks strong in public is usually built on private discipline. Choosing patience during disagreements, choosing honesty when silence would be easier, choosing kindness when emotions run high. Those unseen decisions create visible peace. Love that lasts is not sustained by public gestures, but by private character. Spiritually, many want public anointing without private obedience. They want visible power without hidden surrender. But God does not bypass process. Before David faced Goliath publicly, he faced lions and bears privately. No audience, no applause, only discipline, courage, and faith. When the public moment came, it looked like a miracle, but it was prepared long before. Private discipline trains your spirit to trust God when results are not immediate. Waking up to pray when nothing seems to change. Staying honest when dishonesty would benefit you. Remaining faithful when recognition is absent. These moments stretch faith muscles. Faith that has not been disciplined in private will collapse under public pressure. Daily routines shape destiny. A few minutes of focused prayer every day shapes spiritual authority. A habit of gratitude reshapes perspective. Consistent self-control builds emotional strength. These practices may feel small, but small disciplines repeated over time create massive outcomes. God multiplies what is consistent more than what is intense. In personal growth, discipline often feels lonely. Friends may not understand why you say no to distractions. Others may move faster temporarily because they avoid discipline. But shortcuts always charge interest later. Discipline pays dividends early. God trusts disciplined people with visible blessings because they know how to sustain them. Even confidence grows this way. People admire confidence in public, but confidence is built privately by keeping promises to yourself. When you show up daily for your goals, even when motivation fades, self-respect grows. That inner strength becomes visible calm in public pressure. What others call charisma is often self-trust built in secret. God uses private discipline to protect you. Public miracles without private character can destroy a person. Visibility without discipline leads to pride, burnout, or collapse. This is why God sometimes delays exposure. He is strengthening your foundation so that when the miracle comes, it doesn't crush you, it carries you. Every quiet sacrifice is shaping a future reward. Every unseen prayer is sharpening spiritual authority. Every private decision to obey is moving heaven closer to public manifestation. Discipline aligns your life with divine order, and where there is order, power flows freely. People often ask why their prayers feel unanswered. Sometimes the answer is not louder prayer, but deeper discipline. God responds strongly to lives that are aligned, not just words that are spoken. Alig and meant is built privately. Your daily choices are preaching louder than your public words. When your habits match your faith, miracles follow naturally. God does not need to force doors open for disciplined people. Doors recognize them. Private discipline may feel slow, but it is never wasted. It is building something solid, something sustainable, something ready for public display. What God prepares quietly, He reveals powerfully. Growth that truly changes life does not begin on the outside, it begins within. Many people chase visible success, public approval, and external breakthroughs, yet feel stuck because the inner world has remained unchanged. Heaven does not respond first to what you display. It responds to what you develop. When you grow inwardly, your faith, your mindset, your character, heaven begins to move outwardly in ways you could never force on your own. Look at daily life. A person who works only on appearance may impress briefly, but respect fades quickly. Another person who quietly works on confidence, discipline, and self-control begins to attract opportunities without chasing them. Nothing dramatic happened overnight, yet suddenly doors open, conversations shift, and favor follows. What changed was not the environment, but the inner capacity to handle more. Heaven always responds to readiness. Inner growth changes how you see problems. Two people can face the same challenge. One panics, complains, and feels defeated. The other remains calm, hopeful, and steady. The situation is identical, but the inner condition determines the outcome. When your inner life grows stronger, challenges stop feeling like threats and start feeling like training. Heaven responds to this posture by releasing wisdom instead of confusion. In daily routines, this truth is clear. When someone grows inwardly by learning patience, mornings feel different. Traffic no longer controls emotions. Delays no longer steal peace. That inner stability begins to affect external relationships. People trust you more. Conflicts reduce. Favor increases. Not because you demanded it, but because your inner growth created outward harmony. Spiritually, heaven always works from the inside out. When faith grows inwardly, fear loses its grip outwardly. When gratitude grows inwardly, joy appears outwardly. When humility grows inwardly, honor follows outwardly. God does not pour new wine into old containers. He expands the container first. Inner growth makes room for outward blessing. Think about health. A person who changes habits internally, mindset toward food, discipline toward rest, respect for the body, eventually sees physical transformation. The mirror responds to inner decisions. In the same way, the world responds to spiritual growth. What you cultivate inside determines what manifests outside. In relationships, inner growth is powerful. When you heal inwardly, you stop attracting chaos outwardly. When insecurity is replaced with self-respect, the quality of people around you changes. Heaven adjusts your surroundings when your inner life becomes aligned. You no longer beg for better treatment. Your presence sets the standard. Many people pray for new opportunities without becoming a new version of themselves. But heaven releases opportunities that match capacity. When your inner discipline grows, your outer responsibilities expand. When your inner wisdom grows, your outer influence increases. God does not overwhelm you, He prepares you. Daily examples reveal this pattern. A leader who grows inwardly, learning patience, emotional control, and vision, naturally gains respect. People follow willingly. Authority becomes effortless. Heaven responds to inner maturity with outward leadership. Inner growth also changes timing. When you mature inwardly, delays stop frustrating you. You trust process. That trust allows heaven to move faster because resistance is gone. Impatience slows progress. Readiness accelerates it. When your inner life grows, even setbacks work in your favor. You learn instead of breaking. You adapt instead of quitting. That resilience attracts divine help. Heaven supports those who are stable enough to carry blessing without collapsing. Confidence works the same way. True confidence is not loud, it is rooted. It grows inwardly through discipline and integrity. When confidence is real, opportunities come to you. People feel it. Heaven honors it. Even peace follows this law. When peace grows inwardly, chaos reduces outward. Delay. Decisions become clearer. Stress loses control. You stop reacting and start responding. That calm creates space for divine guidance. Many want outward miracles without inward transformation. But God values depth over display. When your inner world aligns with truth, your outer world begins to shift naturally. You do not force miracles, you become ready for them. Heaven responds outwardly because inner growth signals trustworthiness. It shows you can sustain what you receive. Growth inwardly is heaven's invitation to release more outwardly. When your thoughts grow disciplined, your future grows ordered. When your faith grows rooted, your life grows fruitful. When your character grows strong, your destiny grows secure. Inner growth is invisible, but its results are undeniable. Heaven watches the unseen work and responds with visible movement. Faith does not grow by accident, it grows by attention. What you consistently look at, think about, and give your energy to slowly shapes what you believe. When attention is scattered, faith weakens, not because God becomes smaller, but because your awareness of Him becomes diluted. But when attention is fixed, faith strengthens naturally, almost effortlessly. Faith thrives in focus. Look at daily life. When someone tries to listen to music while scrolling, texting, and watching something else, the music becomes background noise. The sound is there, but the experience is lost. In the same way, God's presence is constant but scat. Errant attention turns faith into background noise. When attention is fixed, when the heart is fully present, faith becomes vivid and alive. Consider worry. Worry is faith misdirected. When attention is fixed on problems, fear grows strong. The problem hasn't changed, but attention has magnified it. Faith works the same way in the opposite direction. When attention is fixed on God's promises, trust grows stronger. What you focus on determines what dominates your inner world. In everyday challenges, this truth becomes clear. Two people face the same setback. One constantly revisits the failure, replays negative conversations, and imagines worst outcomes. Faith shrinks. The other chooses to focus on lessons learned, possibilities ahead, and God's guidance. Faith grows. The difference is not circumstances, it is attention. Faith requires consistency of focus. A plant watered once in a while struggles to survive. A plant watered regularly grows strong. Faith watered by focused attention, daily prayer, reflection, trust, grows roots. Faith fed only occasionally struggles when storms come. Look at relationships. Trust deepens when attention is intentional. When you truly listen, connection grows. When attention is divided, misunderstanding follows. Faith operates the same way. When attention is fixed on God, through listening, reflection, obedience, trust deepens. Faith is built through relationship, and relationship requires attention. In daily routines, attention reveals priorities. When someone checks messages first thing in the morning, attention goes to urgency. When someone begins the day with quiet reflection, attention goes to purpose. Over time, faith grows stronger in the second life because attention was fixed early. What gets your first attention often shapes your strongest belief. Scattered attention creates spiritual fatigue. Many feel tired not because faith is weak, but because attention is constantly switching between fear and hope, doubt and belief, trust and control. That inner tug of war drains energy. Fixed attention brings rest. When the mind decides where it stands, faith stabilizes. In work and goals, focus accelerates progress. A person chasing many directions advances slowly. A person fixed on one direction moves steadily. Faith behaves the same way. When attention jumps between faith and fear, progress stalls. When attention is fixed on trust, movement begins. Daily decisions shape attention. Choosing what voices to listen to, what thoughts to entertain, what news to absorb. These choices either scatter faith or strengthen it. Faith does not need perfect conditions, it needs protected attention. Even prayer changes when attention is fixed. Short prayers with full attention carry weight. Long prayers with scattered minds feel empty. Faith responds to presence, not performance. When attention is focused, prayer becomes connection instead of routine. In moments of waiting, attention determines endurance. when attention is fixed. On delay, frustration grows. When attention is fixed on preparation, patience grows. Faith sees waiting as growth when attention is aligned. Look at confidence. Confidence grows when attention is fixed on growth, not comparison. Comparison scatters attention and weakens belief. Focus builds self-trust. Faith flourishes in people who stay in their lane. Fear thrives on scattered attention. It pulls the mind into many imagined futures. Faith thrives on fixed attention. It anchors the mind in truth. Anchored faith does not panic easily. When attention is scattered, faith becomes fragile, easily shaken by opinions, circumstances, or delays. When attention is fixed, faith becomes resilient. It bends without breaking. Faith grows strongest when attention is disciplined daily, not perfectly, but intentionally. Each time you redirect attention back to trust, faith strengthens a little more. What you repeatedly look at becomes what you deeply believe. Fixed attention turns belief into confidence. Scattered attention turns belief into doubt. Faith does not ask for perfection. It asks for focus. God has never rushed to put anyone on display without first working deeply within them. What people often call delay is actually development. Before God shows your gift to the world, He shapes your character. Before He elevates your position, He strengthens your foundation. God develops you before He displays you. Because what is revealed without preparation can destroy what was meant to bless. Look at daily life. A building that looks impressive from the outside can collapse if the foundation is weak. But a structure that spends months underground, unseen and unnoticed, stands strong for decades. No one celebrates the foundation, yet everything depends on it. In the same way, God often keeps you hidden, not because you are unworthy, but because He is making you strong enough to last. Many people feel frustrated because their talents are unseen. They ask why others are moving faster, being recognized sooner, or achieving visible success. But speed without stability leads to collapse. God protects His chosen ones from premature exposure. He knows that visibility attracts pressure, opinions, and responsibility. Development prepares you to carry weight without breaking. In everyday work, this principle is obvious. A new employee is trained before being given authority. Mistakes are corrected privately before responsibility is increased publicly. No wise leader hands power to someone who has not been prepared. God is the wisest leader of all. When He delays promotion, it is not denial, it is training. Emotionally, development is crucial. God allows seasons that stretch patience, humility, and resilience. These seasons are uncomfortable because growth often is. You learn to manage disappointment, resist pride, and trust God without applause. These internal lessons are invisible, but they are essential. Without them, public success would expose inner weakness. Okay, daily habits. A person who suddenly gains success without discipline often loses it just as quickly, but one who quietly builds habits, consistency, self-control, responsibility, can sustain growth. God uses daily discipline as development. Small acts of obedience prepare you for larger assignments. Even confidence is developed before it is displayed. True confidence is not loud, it is rooted. It grows in private through keeping promises to yourself, through perseverance when no one is encouraging you. When the moment comes to stand publicly, confidence feels natural because it was built silently. Spiritually, God often hides you to deepen your dependence on Him. When no one is clapping, you learn to seek God for strength instead of validation. That dependence becomes spiritual authority. Public influence without private surrender leads to burnout. God develops intimacy before He releases impact. Think about waiting seasons. Waiting trains patience. Delays refine motives. Silence strengthens faith. These experiences may feel like setbacks, but they are shaping your capacity. God is expanding your inner life so your outer life can grow without chaos. Relationships also reflect this truth. God develops your ability to love, forgive, and communicate before He brings the people who require those qualities. Without development, blessings become burdens. Preparation turns potential stress into sustainable joy. Even failures serve development. God uses mistakes to teach humility and wisdom. Lessons learned privately protect you publicly. People who avoid failure often avoid growth. God redeems setbacks into strength. In daily responsibilities, faithfulness in small things is development. Showing up on time, keeping your word, choosing integrity when it costs you. These habits seem ordinary, but they are building extraordinary trustworthiness. God promotes people He can trust. When you feel unseen, remember that development often happens in obscurity. Obscurity is not abandonment. It is often protection. God is covering you while shaping you. Public display without development leads to pressure, comparison, and pride. Development builds stability, clarity, and humility. God wants your success to bless you, not break you. Every season of preparation has a purpose. Nothing is wasted. Every lesson learned quietly strengthens you for visible moments ahead. God is not slow. He is thorough. What He prepares, He sustains. Obedience in small things is the language heaven understands best. What looks insignificant to people is often the very doorway God uses to release the unimaginable. Many want big miracles, dramatic breakthroughs, and sudden elevation, yet overlook the quiet instructions that seem too ordinary to matter. But God does not measure obedience by size. He measures it by sincerity. Small obedience carries enormous weight in the spiritual realm. Look at daily life. A person who consistently wakes up on time, keeps simple promises, and finishes what they start often ends up trusted with bigger responsibilities. No one applauds punctuality or consistency, yet these small acts quietly build credibility. In the same way, when you obey God in small things, speaking kindly when anger feels justified, choosing honesty when a shortcut is available, showing up when it's inconvenient, you are proving readiness for more. Many miracles are delayed not because God is unwilling, but because obedience is selective. People obey when it is easy, visible, or rewarding, but hesitate when obedience is quiet and uncomfortable. Yet small obedience reveals the true condition of the heart. God looks for people who obey without needing applause, explanation, or immediate results. Think about health, drinking water instead of soda, walking instead of sitting, resting instead of overworking. These small choices seem too simple to change anything. But over time, they transform the body. The same principle applies spiritually. Small, obedient choices compound into powerful outcomes. One prayer whispered daily shapes faith more than one emotional moment, followed by neglect. In relationships, small obedience changes everything. Listening instead of interrupting, forgiving instead of holding grudges, speaking truth instead of silence. These choices don't trend or go viral, but they heal hearts and build trust. God often uses relational obedience to unlock peace, favor, and restoration that money or talent cannot buy. At work, obedience, and small things, looks like integrity when no one is watching. Doing your best even when recognition is absent. Respecting authority even when you disagree. These actions shape character, and character is what God rewards with influence. Promotion often follows faithfulness long before it follows skill. Spiritually, small obedience strengthens sensitivity. When you respond quickly to gentle nudges, pray now, speak now, wait now, you train your spirit to hear God clearly. Delayed obedience dulls spiritual hearing. Immediate obedience sharpens it. God trusts people who respond without negotiation. Consider finances. returning borrowed items, honoring commitments, giving when prompted. These small acts align your life with order. Order invites blessing. God multiplies what is aligned. Disobedience creates leaks. Obedience creates flow. Even emotional obedience matters. Choosing gratitude when frustration feels natural. Choosing patience when impatience feels justified. These inner acts of obedience reshape your mindset. A disciplined inner life unlocks outward stability. Peace becomes possible not because life is perfect, but because obedience has ordered your heart. Many overlook small obedience because it feels slow. But slow obedience builds endurance. God is not impressed by occasional big gestures. He is moved by daily faithfulness. Consistency tells heaven, you can be trusted. Look at learning. Reading a few pages daily seems insignificant. Practicing a skill for 10 minutes feels too small to matter. Yet years later, mastery appears. What people call talent is often obedience to small disciplines repeated over time. God works through repetition. Small obedience also protects you. It keeps pride from growing unchecked. It keeps ego from outrunning maturity. God knows that those who obey in small things can be trusted with big influence without losing humility. When life feels stagnant, often the answer is not a new miracle, but renewed obedience. God may already have spoken clearly, quietly, simply. The breakthrough is waiting on the response. Small obedience keeps you aligned even when you don't understand the outcome. Obedience does not require full clarity. It requires trust. Trust opens doors. Reason cannot unlock. Every quiet yes to God is planting a seed. Seeds don't look like harvests. They look small, buried, and forgotten. But heaven never forgets obedient seeds. What you obey today prepares what you receive tomorrow. Unimaginable outcomes are rarely unlocked by dramatic moments, but by simple obedience practiced faithfully day after day. There comes a moment when everything you have heard must settle into one unshakable truth. God has been working all along, even when you could not see it. Every quiet prayer, every unseen discipline, every small act of obedience, every decision to focus instead of scatter was never wasted. Heaven has been watching the details you thought were too small to matter. What you called ordinary, God called preparation. What you called delay, God called development. Remember this always. God never rushes what He plans to sustain. What He builds slowly, He establishes permanently. You were not forgotten in the hidden season. You were being fortified. You were not ignored when no one applauded. You were being shaped. Because when God brings you forward, He does not want you to shine for a moment. He wants you to stand for a lifetime. People may celebrate the outcome, but God celebrates the process. He saw you choose focus when distraction was easier. He saw you obey when it felt insignificant. He saw you grow inwardly when nothing changed outwardly. And heaven responds to that kind of faithfulness. The truth is simple and powerful. What you nurture in secret will introduce you in public. Never underestimate the power of consistency. Mountains are not moved by one dramatic effort, but by steady pressure applied over time. Faith does not collapse because of storms, it collapses because of neglect. But faith that is focused, disciplined, and obedient becomes unbreakable. When your attention is fixed, your spirit becomes anchored. When your obedience is steady, your future becomes secure. God is not preparing blessings for who you pretend to be. He is preparing them for who you are becoming. And who you are becoming is shaped by what you choose daily. Small decisions are writing a large destiny. Every time you say yes to discipline, yes to focus, yes to obedience, you are telling heaven, I am ready for more. Do not rush the process. Diamonds are not formed in comfort, but under pressure. Gold is not refined in silence, but in fire. And strong faith is not built in applause, but in perseverance. God is far more interested in your foundation than your spotlight. He would rather take time developing you than quickly displaying you and watching you fall. There will come a day when things shift suddenly. What felt slow will move fast. What felt hidden will become visible. What felt impossible will feel natural. People will say, it happened overnight, not knowing it took years of prayer, focus, obedience, and inner growth. Let them talk. You will know the truth. Never forget this powerful principle. God does not reveal what He has not first refined, and He does not promote what He has not first prepared. If you are still in the process, it is because the promise is worth protecting. Heaven is not late. Heaven is precise. So stand firm, stay focused, guard your attention. Obey even when it feels small. Grow even when it feels slow. Trust even when it feels quiet. Because the God who develops you in secret will defend you in public. The God who trains you in silence will announce you in His timing. Your story is not ending, it is unfolding. Your season is not wasted, it is strategic. And your future is not uncertain, it is already planned. Keep walking, keep trusting, keep becoming. Because when God finishes the work He started in you, what He reveals through you will be greater than anything you ever imagined.